Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Storm, Force of Nature. It is a 4 mana 3/4 with Flying and Vigilance, and whenever Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm. That means when you cast it, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. Storm is known for being a Temur value commander that wants to copy extremely powerful spells, but I've built quite a different deck because we are playing around Infect. We are in Temur colors, so you might be asking yourself, how do we enable Infect in this type of deck, but I'll get to that later. First let's talk about how we would approach the game. First we would ramp out Storm as fast as possible, and due to the fact that we are in Temur colors we can do that pretty easily. We would cast spells like Skyshroud Claim, a 4 mana sorcery, search a library for up to 2 forest cards, put them onto the battlefield and then shuffle. When it comes to ramping, I mostly feature instant and sorcery cards in this video simply because we can also copy them with Storm's Connect trigger. Just like Growth Spiral, a 2 mana instant, draw a card and you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, which is also a great target for us to be copied with Storm's ability. We wanna fire off Planar Genesis, a 2 mana instant, look at the top 4 cards of your library, you may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and if you don't, put a card from them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. We play Nature's Law, a 2 mana sorcery, search a library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle. Let's draw even more cards with cards like Explore, a 2 mana sorcery, you may play an additional land this turn and you draw a card. Finishing it off with 3 Visits, a 2 mana sorcery, search a library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle. Once we have enough mana available, we wanna bring out Storm, protect her and then only make her connect. How I personally would play it is just go to combat, attack with her, and as soon as we get her connect trigger, simply hold priority and fire off a bunch of spells, so you get a pretty high storm count with a triggered ability already on the stack. We would fire off spells like Mana Morphose, a 2 mana instant, add 2 mana in any combination of colors and you draw a card. Basically another free spell is Frantic Search, a 3 mana instant, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards and untap up to 3 lands. Just as Snap, a 2 mana instant, return target creature to its owner's hand and untap up to 2 target lands. Another free spell is Gutshot, a 1 red Phyrexian mana instant and it deals 1 damage to target creature or player, but it can also be paid with 2 life. A sorcery in this list is Gitaxian Probe, a 1 blue Phyrexian mana sorcery, look at target player's hand and draw a card. And another great card is Noxious Revival, a 1 green Phyrexian instant, put target card from a graveyard on the top of its owner's library. Once we have accumulated a high storm count, we wanna fire off a few of the game-winning spells for us. For example, Carrion Call, a 4 mana instant, put 2 1/1 green insect creature tokens with Infect onto the battlefield. Preferably we will fire the spell off when we still have mana available for a few counter spells to protect our board from a board wipe, but we can also cast the spell at some other point in the game to create our tokens to infect our opponents. An absolute game finisher in this deck and your most powerful win con is Prologue to Phyrexia, a 2 mana instant, each opponent gets a poison counter and you draw a card. Not only does this card replace itself, but with a very high storm count you can kick all of your opponents out. Just as Infectious Bite, a 2 mana instant, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control and each opponent gets a poison counter. If you are able to set it up, you can also imprint those cards under Isochron Scepter, a 2 mana artifact with imprint, so when it enters the battlefield you may exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. For 2 mana you can tap it and you may copy the exiled card. If you do, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. What's relevant is that you cast the copy so it will also have Storm if Storm has connected. Another great early drops to infect our opponents are for example Fin the Fangbearer, a 2 mana 1/3 with Death Touch, and whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. Another great card in this deck is Viral Drake, a 4 mana 1/4 with Flying and Infect, and for 4 mana you can Proliferate. He also closes the gap for the next section of this video, which is continuing with proliferating our opponent's poison counters. We play Experimental Augury, a 2 mana instant, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order and you proliferate. To interact with the board we play Serum Snare, a 2 mana instant, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand and if that permanent had mana value 3 or less, proliferate. We can also bolt a lot of our opponent's faces or creatures with Volt Charge, a 3 mana instant, it deals 3 damage to any target and you proliferate. If you want to ramp even more or finish the game, we can play Expand the Sphere, a 4 mana sorcery. Look at the top 6 cards of your library, put up to 2 land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you put fewer than 2 lands onto the battlefield this way, proliferate a number of times equal to the difference. We would also like to storm off with Thirsting Roots, a 1 mana sorcery, choose 1, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand and then shuffle, or you can also proliferate. Another great sorcery is Contentious Plan, a 2 mana sorcery, you proliferate and draw a card. You want to win more? You get it. As we are in blue, we also play a bunch of counter spells, but this one is a little bit unique. We play Reject Imperfection, a 3 mana instant, counter target spell. If that spell's mana value was 3 or less, proliferate. And another great early drop in this deck is Thunderclap Drake, a 2 mana 2/1 with flying, and instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And due to the fact that Storm will be target number 1 and it might happen that it gets removed, we also have an activated ability on Thunderclap Drake. For 3 mana and sacrificing it, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. So it is a great creature that can still help us to close the game even if we are in a tough spot, and its discount can help us even more to storm off. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Storm, Force of Nature. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below, and then I would say, see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.